everybody. Welcome to day one of our book club, book reading of Carolyn Myss, Anatomy of the Spirit, The 7 Stages of Power and Healing. I gotta correct the title because I only put 7 Stages of Healing. I look a little yellow. Hey, Betsy. I look really yellow. I got this light, but I didn't hook it up. How you doing? How you doing? I've been working on some stuff. Hardcore. So, thanks for joining, Betsy. Have you ever read this book before? Because this book, I mean, there were so many books, honestly, that, really set things in motion for me. The universe speaks through all kinds of mediums. Oh, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. The first part, listen, there's the foreword and the introduction. I am like the worst with the introductions and stuff, but I guess it's necessary because it gives you the background of her and why we should listen to what she's saying. I'm so glad that my hair still looks a little bit red because in person it's dark. Real quick, I know Betsy, you already know this, but for anybody watching the replay, by the way, I'm Jessica. I'm Jessica, and my passion is helping other people become connected to their intuition and to motivate people to live a more sustainable lifestyle. And I do that by practicing what I preach. I try. I'm not perfect. But I do a few things on the side to make money, and one of them is HempWorks. I sell CBD oil. I just got this in. I've been out for a month, and I'm just so freaking grateful because I get neuropathy, and although I can't say anything, I'm not a doctor or whatever, it's not meant to diagnose or treat, but honestly it really helps. And I tried to not do the HempWorks, and I got some stuff that was supposed to be organic and it was awful. So hit me up if you want some CBD oil. Alright, we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Make sure you're liking my YouTube channel, The Metaphysical Misfit. I have Instagram. On Facebook, it's The Loving Life. I also run the group Metaphysical Misfits. So make sure you are on the up and up. Alright. I'm not going to read the foreword. I will post photos of it. How about that? Actually, that's what I'm going to do with the preface as well. I'm going to post photos of it. Maybe not. Okay. We're gonna read the preface, but the foreword, I'm gonna go ahead and just post it. So we're gonna start with the preface, which is becoming medically intuitive. If I'm not loud enough, let me know. We're just gonna read. Let's see. The preface is quite long. Oh, not the preface, the introduction. Okay, so we have a brief personal history, and then turning points, And I guess we're going to read just up at the first part. So it's a few pages, and then we'll discuss it. So if you guys are commenting, it's not catching up. There's a lag. All right, so introduction. A brief personal history. As I say to people attending my workshops and my lectures, I'm taking you into the world that exists behind my eyes. But if I first tell you about the series of wake-up calls that led to my own perspective, if I first introduce you to the many different people and events that over the years directed me toward becoming a medical intuitive, you may become more aware of the inner guidance at work in your own life. Everything that has professional, personal, and spiritual value for me, I've learned through my work as a medical intuitive. As a college student, however, I was headed in a very different direction. Overloaded with ambition, I studied journalism, and in my junior year, decided that I would win the Pulitzer Prize before I turned 30. The problem with this plan, I discovered while working at my first newspaper job, was that I lacked the talent required for successful newspaper reporting. I quit the paper, but I could not accept that my only dream career, being a writer, would not come true. Having no backup dream, I descended into a poisonous, gluey depression, a classic dark night of the soul. During the worst months, I would sleep late in the morning and then sit on the floor of my home office staring at half-written magazine articles. One morning, just as I was coming out of a deep sleep, still in that state between wakefulness and sleep, I was overwhelmed with the sensation that I had died and was only remembering this lifetime. I felt grateful that my life was over. I finally opened my eyes and realized I was still very much alive. Nausea overtook me, and I spent the morning vomiting my disappointment. I have been there. I remember I went through a time where I had postpartum psychosis, and I tried to kill myself 6 times, and I remember waking up from those attempts and being like, what the fuck? Exhausted, I returned to my bed to try to evaluate where I had miscalculated in planning my life. At that point, a memory of a homework assignment in a journalism class exploded into my mind. My journalism professor had spent a fair amount of time emphasizing the importance of objectivity in accurate newspaper reporting. Objectivity, she said, meant keeping yourself emotionally detached from the subject on which you are reporting and seeking out only the facts that describe a situation. She asked us to imagine that a building was on fire and that 4 reporters, each standing on a different corner, were covering the story. Each reporter would have a different view of the same event. Each would interview the people on his or her corner. Or her corner. The question the teacher posed to us was, which reporter had the real facts and the accurate viewpoint? That is, which reporter saw the truth? Suddenly, that simple assignment from years ago took on immense symbolic meaning for me. Perhaps truth and reality are actually only matters of perception, I thought. Perhaps I had been looking at a life with only one eye, seeing the building from only one corner, and sharing it with others who also lacked depth perception. I realized that I had to open my other eye and get out of that corner. Water break. My exhausted, frustrated mind then made another leap backward. The year after I graduated from college, I'd left my hometown, Chicago, to go to work for a summer in Alaska. I traveled cross-country with good friends to Seattle, where we boarded a ferry and headed up the Inland Passage for a 3-day trip to Haines. None of us slept the whole time, so that by the time we arrived in Haines, we were practically seeing double. We were met at the dock by a man who drove us in a van to the ferry to the local hotel. We went to our room and collapsed on the beds, everyone but me falling into a deep sleep. I was too wound up, so I left the hotel and started wandering around the town. The van driver spotted me, stopped his vehicle, and asked where I was going. I told him I was out for a walk. He told me to jump in his van, which I did, and he dropped me off in front of an old 2-story wooden building. Go on up to the 2nd floor, he said. The name of the woman who lives there is Rachel. Go talk to her for a while and I'll come back for you. That was creepy. Today, back in Chicago, such behavior would be considered fairly dangerous, but at the time, my reasoning ability was eclipsed by my exhaustion and my fascination with Alaska. So, I did just what he suggested. I walked up the stairs and knocked on the door. A Native American woman in her early 80s, Rachel, opened the door and said, "Well, come on in. I'll make you some tea." This Alaskan etiquette, well, she wouldn't sound like that if she was Alaskan, but whatever. Gracious, trusting, warm hospitality. She did not seem surprised to me, nor did she act as if I were an imposition. For her, this was just an ordinary experience of someone dropping in for tea and conversation. As I sat dreamily in Rachel's home, I felt as if we were between two different worlds. Half of the apartment was decorated with objects from Russian culture, icons of the Black Madonna, a samovar in which Rachel was making tea, Russian lace window curtains. The other half was pure Athabascan Indian, including a small totem pole and an Indian blanket that hung on the wall. Looking up from the samovar, Rachel noticed that I was looking at the totem pole. "Do you know how to read a totem pole?" she asked. "No," I replied. "I didn't realize you could read one." "Oh my, yes. Totem poles are spiritual statements about the guardians of the tribe," Rachel said. "Look at that one. The animal on the top is the bear. That means the spirit of the bear, strong and clever at stalking its prey, but never killing just to kill, only for protection and needing long periods of sleep to recover his strength. This spirit guides our tribe. We must imitate that spirit." Hearing those words, I woke up. I was in the presence of a good teacher, and a good teacher brings me to attention instantly. Rachel told me that she was half Russian and half Athabascan, and had lived in Alaska long before it became a state. As she shared, albeit briefly, her background and Athabascan spiritual traditions with me, she changed my life forever. See that blanket on the wall? That blanket is very special. In the Athabascan culture, being a blanket maker or a songwriter, or having any occupation that is a matter of great honor, is a matter of great honor. You have to have permission from a songwriter to sing songs, because his songs contain his spirit. And when you are a blanket maker, you're forbidden to begin weaving a blanket unless you know you will live long enough to finish it. Wow. If you find out that you need to die, mind you, she said need to die, you must perform a ceremony with someone who will agree to finish the task for you, because you cannot leave one part of your work unfinished before you die. Otherwise, you leave a part of your spirit behind. That blanket was almost finished when the Great Spirit came in a dream to a woman who was making it and told her to prepare to leave the earth. She asked the spirit if she could live long enough to finish the blanket, and the spirit said yes, she would be given that much more time. She died 2 days after finishing that blanket. Her spirit is in that blanket in a good and powerful way, and it gives me strength. Life is simple, Rachel said. You're born into life to care for each other and for the earth. And then you receive your word that it is coming to an end, and you must make the proper arrangements to depart, leaving behind no unfinished business. You must make your apologies, pass on your tribal responsibilities, and accept from the tribe its gratitude and love for your time spent with them. It's so beautiful. Simple as that. I wish we lived like that. Rachel paused for tea and then began again. Tomorrow night, I go to a ceremony, a potluck ceremony. A man is preparing to leave the earth, and he will give to the tribe all of his belongings. He will lay his clothes and his tools in a long dish. The tribe will symbolically accept his belongings, meaning that he will be released from any tribal responsibilities so that he can complete the work of his spirit. Then he will leave us, said Rachel. I was dumbstruck by Rachel's serenity and matter-of-fact attitude, especially her calmness about death. Where was all the fear about death to which I was so accustomed to in my own culture? Rachel had just blown up my entire world as I understood it, in particular my concept of the spiritual dimension of life, or God. Yet, she was as casual as summer rain. I wanted to dismiss the truth she offered over tea as nothing more than primitive beliefs, but my gut feeling told me she knew a God that was far more real than my own. How does this man know he's going to die? Is he sick? I asked. Oh, she said. He went to the medicine man. The medicine man looked at his energy. His energy told the medicine man what was happening to him. Well, how does the medicine man know these things? She seemed shocked at my ignorance. Tell me, Rachel said, looking directly into my eyes. How is it that you do not know such things? How can you live without knowing what your spirit is doing and what your spirit is saying? Oi. Hey, Bohan. Oh, good timing. I was tearing up. Oh. Sorry. We've become so disconnected. I'm excited about all of this, which is bringing us back to our center, you know. There we go. That way I don't have to try to sit up. She added, everyone goes to a medicine man to learn what his spirit is saying. Years ago, the medicine man said to me, you will have a broken leg soon if you do not walk better. I knew he did not mean my physical walk. He meant that I was not honest because I wanted another woman's man. I needed not to see that man anymore. It was hard for me because I loved this man, but my spirit was becoming sick from dishonesty. I left this place for a while, and when I returned, I walked straight. I desperately wanted to stay with Rachel for a while and learn more from her. I offered to clean her home, run errands, anything. But when the driver came to collect me, she sent me away, and I never saw her again. As I climbed into the van, the driver said, she's something, isn't she? When I returned home from Alaska that fall, my body arrived without my spirit. It took me months to unite them again. Before meeting Rachel, I had not considered the power of our spirits as she had described it. I had never considered that we could weave our spirits into everything we do and everyone we meet. Nor had I thought that my life choices expressed my spirit or affected my health. I see now that Rachel's story of emotional and physical healing is a good example of how using symbolic sight can change our lives. Although we did not know it at the time, my afternoon with her was my introduction to medical intuition. While I wasn't to begin my own work in this field for another 8 years, the memory of her drew me out of my post-newspaper depression and set me on a different course. I decided to study theology in graduate school, which I hoped would give me a greater perspective akin to Rachel's and help me finally break free of my street corner. My preconceptions and mental limitations. Perhaps the God I thought I knew was not the God that actually existed, since he was certainly not answering my prayer to be a writer. Perhaps the God I did not yet know would prove more responsive. I arrived in graduate school in a state of crisis, feeling powerless for the first time in my life. Still, I completed a master's degree in the study of mysticism and schizophrenia. The madness encountered on the path towards spiritual sanity. Yes, I went through quite a while where I thought I was schizophrenic. Because when you start receiving messages, you're like, what? I'm definitely receiving messages, because you play with it a little bit. You get to know it. And then you're like, oh, I can obviously trust this energy and these voices. But I'm hearing voices, and I'm told that that's not a good thing. But that's what they tell you to keep you powerless. Anyway. Feeling powerlessness later I would come to see that my feeling of powerlessness had led me to study power for the lives of mystics, our lessons in physical, emotional, and spiritual bereavement and disempowerment, followed by rebirth into a new relationship to power. Wow. Hold on. Later I would come to see that my very feeling of powerlessness had led me to study power for the lives of mystics. Okay. Behind closed doors, through anguish and ecstasy, mystics gain access to the spirit, access so profound that they become capable of breathing an energy like divine electricity into ordinary words and acts. They become able to heal others through acts of genuine love, forgiveness, and faith. Some of the best-known mystics of the Christian culture, St. Francis of Assisi, St. Clare of Assisi, Julian of Norwich, St. Teresa of Avila, St. Catherine of Siena, and the more contemporary Padre Pio, are said to be in continuous intimate dialogue with God, living in clarity well beyond ordinary consciousness. The world behind their eyes is infinitely more real to them than the world before their eyes. Wow, I was just talking about this. Mystics' perceptions about reality and power are different from those of ordinary people. In the language of Christianity, mystics are in the world but not of the world. In the language of Buddhism and Hinduism, they are detached from the illusions of the physical world. They can see symbolically, clearly, because they are awake. The word Buddha means one who is awake. Although the spiritual path to attaining this degree of consciousness and clarity can be arduous, no matter how much physical misery these mystics encountered along the way, none of them ever asked to return to ordinary consciousness. Never. I would never. In my own use of intuition and symbolic sight to help people see why they've become ill, I often ponder the lives of mystics, especially the theme of the individual's relationship to power. When I was still new to intuition, I had not yet made the connection between disease, healing, and personal power, but I now believe that the power is the foundation of health. My own objectivity, my symbolic perspective on life, helped me to evaluate people's relationships to power and how power influences their bodies and spirit. These days, I use Rachel's language to tell people that they have woven their spirits into negative things and that to recover their health, they need to retreat for a while, pull their spirits back, and learn to walk straight again. Would that we could follow such simple instructions, because our spirits do contain our lives and our life choices. We do indeed weave our spirits into the events and relationships of our life. Life is as simple as that. So we're going to stop there. That's the first little part. Next is an intuitive apprenticeship. I'm just going to come on, every day at 2 and read little passageways. I'm going to post the photos of the pages in the comments below. That way, if you just want to read them, instead of watching the video, you can do that. I encourage you to comment how it resonated with you, what stuck out in the comments, so we can start a conversation. I know a lot stuck out for me as someone striving to be, let me own it, as a spiritual mentor. And the dark night of the soul, and I mean, so much in here. And the thing is like, what's awesome is that it's not, even though it's like a very tailored path, it's not a path that isn't available. You know, anyone can level up. And it's just more about, are you gonna hang in there during, like, because shit gets real. Like right now, while what we're going through is a reflection of our inner world and the inner chaos and the inner war. And the reason why these things are happening is so that we can look at them, shed the light on the shadow, and heal it. And the thing is we think that to heal these things, it's so hard, but it's really not. Like, it really is just sitting. This is why meditation is so important. Sitting, and once you calm your thoughts, we just finished a 5-day meditation on Insight Timer, and it's a kid's meditation. I shared it on my page, and I recommend it for anyone. It's for kids, but if you're new starting out, it's like 10 to 12 minutes long each day, and it's simple, and it really helps. Lucas was saying it helps him on days where he's feeling a lot of emotions, you know, and he's my little empath. And for me, it was very nice to kind of return and do a little bit of like inner child work doing this meditation. And so when we can just calm our thoughts, which are a constant stream, it's just constant, that's how our brain is wired. It's processing the world around us, so there's always going to be thoughts. When we can learn to quiet those thoughts and actually hear what's going on, that's when we'll be able to see the reflection in what is happening around us and address it within, and then see it without. Address it within and see it without. Address it within and see it out. When we're having experiences in our environment that are bringing us discomfort, it's our job to remember that it is our job to make ourselves happy. A lot of time when we are feeling unhappy, it's because we've given our power over to someone else. And that actually came in through my morning meditation today, because I wake up at most mornings. And the message from Spirit was, because I was thinking about a relationship that I have, and there's a lot of history with it, and I was feeling like I don't know if I can relax into this friendship. And so it was about not trusting. And then Spirit said, don't trust them, trust us. It will always feel fearful when we search for sustenance in outside sources. People will always disappoint you, not because they are bad people, but because you are being guided toward depending on you. So having the experience of what it feels like to give our power over to somebody else in all of its various forms. That experience of discomfort is there to point us toward what we really want, which is to be in our power, which is like terrifying to do, you know. I mean, I'm in that right now, like trying to step into my power, and it's like super terrifying. But I'm doing it because I'm terrified, but I'm also courageous, and I'm also brave. And so are you. So you are the creator of your world. You are the composer, performer, and audience. You have the power to rearrange the score at any time, as long as you are aware of this fact, that you are, all of that. However, when we're not aware of it, and we place our creative power in their pocket, then we forfeit the ability. This is why being present in your moment is so crucial to the manifesting process. When we put our faith and trust in things not plugged into source energy, people, places, or things, memories, thoughts, indoctrinations. When we put our faith and trust in things not plugged into source energy, which is the self, right? That's why we got to go within, because source energy is self. In each person's experience, the outcome will be one of powerlessness. It will always feel bad, you know. A facet of powerlessness is disappointment. So by doing the work to be in the moment, tapped into source for the guidance, we can create a better experience for ourselves and experience less disappointment and grief. And like, I don't, you know, here's the thing, is like, ultimately, all the manifestation stuff, I mean, like, I've manifested a lot of things, so it's hard for me to even consider that it's not real. But with all of that manifesting work aside, we really do have control over how we're feeling in our own experience, in our own, you know, experience. And when we can understand that we have that control, that we have the power to have a better experience, you know, it's unlike there's nothing else in the world that's like it. But we have to trust that we are receiving the guidance. And at first, the guidance for me came through books and music, and then it started to come through teachers, and now I'm being told to let it come through me, which is terrifying, but I'm doing it. So I hope you liked today. That's my little side message, and I will meet you back here tomorrow at 2 so we can begin an intuitive apprenticeship in the introduction. Love you. Bye.